and stood beside the waves with you that danced across your face. Would we forget that we were strangers if I was there to take it in and walk between the changing spaces, dance through light and altered places? Would a fire begin? Gone on a fast train, oceans of blank space, high on an airplane, bridged by a light wave. If I went back in time, remove the boulders that still chase us, would we still let lust create us, or would we start to climb if our dimensions were the same? And I could touch you in the flesh, fold the time and space between us, would yours fall into mine? Shadows on our stage, here from another phase, nothing in our way. All but a 3D place. All but a 3D place. All but a 3D place. Bridged by a light wave. If I flew to Japan and stood beside the waves with you and danced across your face, would we forget that we were strangers if I was there to take it in and walk between the changing spaces, dance through light and altered places? Would a fire begin? Gone on a fast train, oceans of blank space, high on an airplane, bridged by a light wave. and stood beside the waves with you that danced across your face. Would we forget that we were strangers if I was there to take it in and walk between the changing spaces, dance through light and altered places? Would a fire begin? Gone on a fast train, oceans of blank space, high on an airplane, bridged by a light wave.
Welcome everybody to the second episode of the American Accent Soccer Podcast. Thank you for everyone that hung on during the 9-minute intro from my favorite EDM artist of all time, Deadmau5. Just imagine yourself at a Vegas party, and that's a 9-minute song. Usually they last about 15 minutes more. Tonight, I have one of my best friends, guy that I've known for almost 30 years, which is pretty crazy, Eddie, right?
That's right.
We go back to our SNHU days before it was even SNHU, man. It was NHC, and
NXT, yeah.
it was crazy days back in Manch Vegas. But let me first introduce you, my best friend, my man, Nigerian superstar Eddie Oyakhilome. What's up, EO?
Hey, what's up, Ponte? Thanks for having me. And, it's always a pleasure to, chat with you about everything, football, life, you name it. You're my brother from another mother, you know that, from way back.
Hey, from the way back, EO, from the way
That's
back.
right. That's right.
As you can see in the picture behind us, man, that's the you got a little background
That's the
pic.
crew.
That's the crew, man. That's the crew,
That's the
baby.
crew.
That's
That's right. Those are the boys.
those are the boys, man. Eddie, Jamie, you, me, and of course, little Jordan, who's not little
That's
anymore,
right. That's my baby Jordan. That was your girl, man. You guys used to rock some Tevin Campbell and stuff.
You know that I tried to download that song and try to put it up here earlier on. I was just like, man, I can't get it to go. So I was hoping to get her on later on and maybe sing together, but then I think we chase everyone off the podcast, So, so it's all right, my man. But listen, it's obviously been a little while since I've seen you in person. Hopefully that changes right quick when I get down to Florida for some recruiting and everything like that. But give me a little update on what you've been doing, Eddie. I know that you have your hands in many jars, man. Let me know what's going on.
Right now, the day job, obviously being in computer, back in the day. So I'm the senior vice president for a German company, TE Systems. So I'm the global senior vice president. So what we're trying to do there is the fact that I'm in technology, I love my job, but the passion, it's always football, it's always soccer. So even right here in the Tampa Bay area, I'm still involved in soccer. I do some training, and you probably know I have a soccer field in my property.
In your
Because
backyard, man.
yeah. It was a mission of mine to own one. Since I was a kid. Just not having a place to play, growing up in Nigeria and Africa, and then when I see kids, I want the pitch to be good. And I took one of my coaching licenses, and it's a funny story. And they kind of said, I think it was my C license. They said we should give background on our environment growing up. So I kind of sketched trees and rocks and goals, and my game was going diagonal, and they were mocking me and laughing at me. And I was trying to let them know that back in Nigeria, we didn't have quality grass. We had dirt. Everybody just plays. We use rock or whatever we can find for goals. And they actually mocked me. People thought it was, far-fetched. And I remember saying to them, one of these days, I'm going to have a badass soccer field in my own house. And so that was the motivation. And now I have one with floodlights, you name it. I just love seeing the kids go out there and play, and it's hard work maintaining it, but once you set your mind to doing something, I always try and accomplish it.
You
And
always you
I
had the
remember back.
Christmas lights up too, didn't you?
Oh, you saw, yeah, you saw the Christmas light.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
the thing about it is soccer and football is passion, right? We
Right.
got to make it fun for the kids. I just love the game so much that any person or any kid that I'm involved with, I want them to enjoy that part that I never had, growing up. So if I can do my best to make sure they have the right environment, the right surface to be able to play and enjoy the game, that's important to me. And so,
And then,
yes, soccer is still a big part. My high school just won the semifinal of the district last night, and
right.
it's a private school. We have a district final tomorrow. So work and play. You know,
But
they
is it,
take.
I mean, for us, I mean, we're always at play in our heart. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So that's just the way it's always been, man. But that's crazy, Ed, that when you think about it, and I've known you now since 1995, man. Since that first day I got to SNHU or NHC back in '95.
NHC.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's how far back we go. We changed the school's name. You know.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
uh, it's crazy how you have never, much like me, you don't sleep, man. It just seems that you're always busy. You're always out there. You're always promoting not only the game, but the love of the game, your love for the game, your passion for the game. And then obviously, your ability to not only, do what you do, on the football pitch, but, in the classroom as well. And you know that I always looked up to you when it came to that because I mean, you were an unbelievable student athlete. You were the true epitome of that, Eddie. You had your bachelor's degree, your master's degree, all while being married and having Jordan at the first, for the first couple of years, and then having Ethan a little bit later on. Tell me a little bit about that, Eddie. When you were at the professional level out in Europe and doing all that other kind of stuff and everything, and then you come over here to the States and you have Joe and Jordan at that time, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you're coming over here and the school's giving you a full ride, everything like that. Tell me a little bit about that. Tell me how it felt, when you signed that letter of intent and when you came over here and first saw what football was all about here at the college level in the States.
Well, as you know, playing in England and playing in Rome, Lazio back in those days, and once you get to that point where I had a ruptured Achilles, right?
Yep.
And in England, I was kind of torn. What do I do now? I recovered from that Achilles tendon injury, and I was trying to get myself back in preseason. I actually went down a level. I was playing at Barnet and back inside, and within 3 weeks of back in playing, I ruptured that Achilles tendon again. I was devastated. I mean, to the point that I didn't have a clue what I was going to do. Here's a kid from Nigeria that goes to Europe, living in England. Life was good, and all of a sudden, that back-to-back injury, set me back, and I was really, really down for a while. And so I rehabbed that, and I figured, let me give it a shot. So one of my friends was playing at Sevilla. A vacation. I was really not sure what I wanted to do. So I came to US, stayed in Maine, Bangor and Orono, Maine, with my friend Ray Wright. So he said to me, hey, Eddie, in the US, you can go to college and get a free education because you're a very good player. But, just depends on what you want to do. So I said, I was just kidding around. I said, all right, let's go try out. So he took me to University of Maine. And within 30 minutes of the coach seeing me, he offered me, opportunity to come back that he would love to have me. And back then I was, 22 years old, 23 years old. And I think NCAA Division One had some age limit. And
Right.
so when he found out my age, I wasn't eligible to play at University of Maine. And so we came down to New Hampshire, right? We drove because I was here for 2 weeks. We went to Franklin Pierce College,
Right.
Todd Silergy. And Todd really liked me. I trained with them. He offered me a scholarship. I went to New Hampshire College, John Roots. I actually did a bicycle kick during the tryouts, and so Rootsy really liked what he saw, and he offered me a spot right there. And so Ray was like, listen, we're already this far down, let's go to Connecticut. So we went to Connecticut, and I was just lucky that every school that I went to, I was getting verbal offers, right?
Right.
And I was blown away. I was thinking, all right, Sevilla may not pan out, and if I go back to England, what am I going to do? And for education, if you go back to your parents, you go back over straight A's, but second in the class. The first question is, who's that at the first in your class academically? Does that have two heads? Why is he first? Why are you second? So that's always been instilled in me that education's always priority.
Right.
Even when I was playing in England, I still took, associate degree in computer science while I was playing. And so it was a big choice for me to make a decision. Todd Silergy came to England to watch me play, in one of my comeback games. And he's like, Eddie, I got to have you. But the deciding factor was I was married with a kid coming up. I did not want to stay on campus. As you know, I had to leave off campus. I didn't want to be stuck in a dormitory with my kid and my wife back then. And so New Hampshire College was able to offer me off-campus housing. And as the story went, I was playing, and I think we beat Pierce in one of those my first year there.
Yep.
And he wasn't happy about that. So it became some contention about illegal recruiting, playing professional and now coming to college, NCAA violation, blah, blah, blah. But I've always been good friends with Todd Silergy. So he didn't want to compromise me being in America. So he kind of, it wasn't going to do nothing about it. And then in Rootsy and the school decided, hey, we're going to get you off the team. But I kept my scholarship. I got into this program. I was tutoring and doing a lot, even working, and then playing Laser League.
Oh, yeah.
So it was a lot of work because I still wanted to play, so I was going to play Laser League, and being in the honors program and also tutoring, kids, freshmen and sophomore in computer science. I was always in the computer lab, helping other students. And I think that kind of got me going because I became a very busy person in school, being a parent, a husband, a student. And when I wasn't able to play for the rest of my college year, after that first year, I put all my energy into my education because I felt like at this point, in school, I graduated top of my class in computer science that year.
Yes, you did.
And in the honors program. And even with all that's been said and done, I still had to party. I mean, I was a DJ, I was DJ in college.
The best DJ,
and,
man. The best.
And so we used to just have fun, right? We used to play hard, have fun. We didn't drink, we didn't smoke, but we just, we played music, we partied, and then, we took our education seriously.
Yep.
And so if you want to ask me about my college education, and I had a daughter, that was the mascot of the school. She was even attending classes. You guys would drag her into your classrooms,
Yep.
and all the professors, everybody. So for me, it was different. I mean, the Jordan used to be in the cafeteria, all day, and anybody. She was the school mascot. She used to go to Dr. Larkin's office, and grab cans. And what can I say? And so it was a great time. And I've always been one of those that I love challenges. I love to complete anything I start. I remember I was even coaching the men's indoor professional league where
Yes, you were.
you were goalie and playing striker.
Right.
You got us into a few scraps, because
Not me, man. Not me, man. That ain't my style, man.
and then I got into coaching, the youth side, because I couldn't play collegiate soccer anymore. So that's why I started, training kids, and that it's been fun, while working at
Yeah.
back then in Cabletron,
Right.
part time, and then after graduation, I got the job in the computer industry. So
Driving your red Honda Prelude with CD-ROM
had
license.
remember that CD-ROM? I had the BMW. I've always loved cars.
I
you
know
know,
this, man. I know this.
you know, as a
Ah,
student driving, the Prelude, and and BMWs, and we
oh
just
yeah.
we just had fun,
I,
and Ellie, Jamie, Paul, everybody, man.
Jason
We
Water.
got to do a reunion, right? We got to get back together.
I listen.
So,
I'm still obviously in touch with you, and I still talk a lot with Ellie, with Jamie, obviously, with Shawnee Diaz a little bit on Twitter. Crazy thing is that during the World Cup, when Croatia beat Brazil, it seemed to open the floodgates with everyone contacting me and everything. So, like guys that I haven't heard from in a long, long time, coming out of the woodworks, TD, Tommy Dempsey,
oh,
Dave,
TD.
yeah, Dave Trickett,
Yeah.
all the guys, Danny Lindemann, and
Oh,
all these
Lindemann.
guys. Yeah, man, all of them, hey, Ante, unbelievable, this, that, whatever. And, it was fun to hear from all of them, man. And it's just crazy that, here it is, 2023, it's 28 years since at least I stepped on campus for the first time at SNHU. And, when I think about it, it's just nuts, Eddie, how much, obviously we've, passed between then and between now and then. But when you look at those 3 years, at least I was there for those 3 years,
Yeah.
and you were there
Yeah.
you were there with me for those whole 3 years.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of soccer between now and then, and the guys that I've had the privilege of taking the field with while I was in the blue, yellow, and white of SNHU, or gold, blue, and white, if you want to call it,
Right.
yourself, Showcase, Dean Sewell,
Oh, yeah.
Mark Moore,
Mark Moore, Dean Sewell,
come on,
Freddie,
man, Ellie,
Freddie
Freddie,
Butler, Ellie,
Colton,
JB.
and
Jeez.
even
That was a national team. That was a youth national team, because
Richie Walker,
yeah.
those are, Olfi, all my Swedish boys,
Mark Moore.
Muda, those guys, seriously, it's like they talk about D2, this, that, whatever. And then think about the guys that we actually played against.
Yeah.
The Southern Connecticut teams, the Franklin Pierce teams, the Dowling teams.
They were stacked.
Listen, we would go up and we played D1 teams and we would smack them in preseason.
Yeah.
Smack them. And then we get back to the D2 level, and our games would be, those Southern Connecticut, Southern New Hampshire, and HC games back in the day.
Yeah.
Dude, come on, man. Those are games where the Franklin Pierce game.
They don't make them like that no more.
No.
College soccer is no longer as
No.
competition in Southern Connecticut. But as players, we respect each other.
Yes.
These stories to people when you're in goal, right? Even at training, ace on day 6, you won number 6, you dominated the 6-yard box. Hey, you always say, hey guys, get out of my box. That 6 is mine. Let the forward come in, because he's gonna get some.
That was my house.
At practice, you don't hold back. You
No.
know, I remember coach used to say, "Hey, Hunter, you can't hurt people." You're like, "Yeah, this is my six. It's my box, man. You were crazy." And
The,
you know,
the
those are those days when you know, goalkeepers are not as protected as they are right now. So in order
right.
for you to protect yourself, you had to put it in practice and translate that into a game. You know, and so it made it easier to just play zonal defense when it comes to corner kick, because we know that six is yours. And
Hey,
anybody in that six is collateral damage. I still remember that.
and the crazy part about it Eddie, is that, you know, it's like when I got there, you know, I had Eric Fernstrom and I had BJ with me, and it was a challenge every day, and I had to prove myself. And again, in those 3 years, I learned more about myself than I did anybody else. And
Right.
I had guys like you and guys like Ellie and guys like Danny Lombardo,
Lombardo,
and
yeah.
my boys like that, and you know that were with me the whole time. And it wasn't easy at times because, you know, I was still learning myself. And
Yeah.
again, when you're playing at that high level with the players that were there with the national team experience, I mean, you know who like Sammy Ferris. I forget about
Yeah.
Sammy. I forget about, I mean, guys like that with that talent. You know, the three Matzes that played with us. I mean,
Oh,
we
yeah.
had, we had everything. You know, I mean, you had guys. I mean, even like if you want to call them unsung heroes, Ricky Milliken. You know, TD.
Yes.
You know, Johnny Cook. You
Cook.
know, Rodrigo Mosquera. I mean, these
Yeah.
guys that were, you know, dudes that, like you said, every practice they brought it, man.
Yeah.
They brought it,
Yeah.
and I absolutely loved it. Would I get pissed if I made a mistake? Yeah, I would. You know, because that made me think I wasn't going to get on the field. You know,
Yeah.
but you know, again, I went through the ups, I went through the really low downs, and then I got right back to where we needed to get with the ups, right? And
Yeah.
you wouldn't be able to do that at a school that wasn't challenging for the number one spot in the country,
In the
which I
country. Yeah.
think, if I wasn't mistaken, I think all 3 years that I was at SNHU, we were, I know in 97, we were number one
Evan.
for quite a number of
Yeah.
weeks. And then in
Yeah.
96 and 95, we were right there too, you know?
Yeah.
But again, man, it's
We
like
stayed consistent. We were consistent.
consistent. Rootsy and Neil,
Yeah.
they did their
Yeah.
scout, you know, they did their
Yeah.
scouting right, and they had everything where they needed to. I think we came into a generation where you had like the Franklin Pierces with Seamus Donnelly and Tony Franklin and those guys,
Clean.
and then you had Southern Connecticut with Mike Pecky, Chris Hauser, Sean Boney. You know, I mean,
Sean Boy.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. You know, so I mean, and you had those dudes, and I mean, we would go out of the region, and like we went to Spartanburg that first year, and no problems. Yeah, we played
Yeah.
Spartanburg, the number 2 team in the country, with 9
Yeah.
guys for 45 minutes, and Ellie
Yeah.
scores the winner. In the,
CWs
extra
and all
time.
those guys.
Yeah, man. That was another one where I went into the stands after the fans started talking to me. But we'll share that story later. But but it's
You
just
know,
crazy how,
the thing I love about that team is the competition, yes, right?
yeah,
We brought it to practice, but once we step out of practice, we're boys. You know,
yes,
we're boys, and those fraternity guys, you know, if they try and mess with one of our boys, they know it's coming, right? You know, nobody mess with soccer guys. You know, then you have Jerry Cuba. Remember Jerry?
oh my
You know,
God, we didn't need anybody else. You just said Jerry.
yeah, you have
That's
Jerry.
it.
You can't mess with soccer boys. You know, so, I mean, that's what I love about our team. The chemistry was great. The competitions was high, and if you're not playing and you're on the bench, you're cheering.
Yeah,
You're making sure that the player that's playing ahead of you, you know, does well, because you know
yeah,
you're going to push him in practice. And so it was one of a kind, you know, team. But I can definitely, you know, with all due respect, you were probably the craziest of all of us. You know, your temper, or you were almost a loose cannon. I mean, you letting it go at practice, the defense gonna have it, you know, but in a way that, you know, you hold yourself accountable, but you're still gonna let them, you know. It's like, practice, dude, relax.
I think this forehead got the most of it, banging it into the post all the time. You know what I mean? So, but hey, again, Eddie, you had guys like you who had a better Jamaican drag than all the Jamaicans that I knew. Okay, and you had Dean who could do what he did, and everyone else just fit their role, man. And it was like if I did bad, I felt like I was letting everyone down, you know. And I didn't want that, man. I wanted that number one ranking. I wanted the rings, you know. I came from a junior college program like COD, which was just ridiculously good too, man. And you know, it's just one of those things where you didn't want to, you know, you didn't want to let your teammate down. And you know, it's like the next topic I want to get into when we get off this little topic is how, you know, I'm trying to teach my kids the same thing now, right?
Right.
Where there's this selflessness instead of the selfishness, right?
Business.
So,
Yes.
you know, and again, you know, did you have your arguments with people? Yeah, of course you did. That's a natural competitive thing to have, right? So,
Absolutely.
but again, like you said, man, the parties at upstairs on the third floor, right? We went up there, man. We had good times, man. You know, we were off campus by you, man. We'd hit the Ace parties at the bar.
Ace party.
That dude, and you know, you had everyone chilling there with us. You know, I mean,
no, it was a fun time. And remember, you know, back in those days, right? Goalies can't even play from the back. Now every goalkeeper needs to be able to play from the back.
Yep.
You know, and you could play the number 9, right? So distributing from the back, you know, was no problem. So we didn't even need a center back to take goal kick. So it was, those memories are great. And I saw Ellie and Jamie last year. They came to Florida with the girls team. It was just great to see them again. And I mean, those memories are gonna always remain, you know.
They're the best, Eddie. They're the best, man. And now, when we're done, we're done talking about what's our glory years, my brother. You know, here's my question for you now, man. And it's a topic that I covered with Sinisha in the first episode. But this national team stuff, the fallout is just getting worse and worse now. You know, now McBride is gone. Ernie Stewart is now gone. Okay. Claudio Reyna has now quit his job as the technical advisor for FC Austin. Berhalter is out of his job. Now you go into these winter friendlies. You have if you want to call him, an interim manager, where, you know, you still don't have the structure that you need to now maybe go find that next number 9. Although I think the kid from Ream, that guy Balogun, who just scored a hat trick today.
He's Nigerian. So
he's Nigerian, but born in New York. So he has
I know.
citizenship too, man. You know, it is good. But you know, I think that now not having a coach and not having another, if you want to call it philosophy or mindset from a coach's standpoint, well, you know, what do you think is the next logical step for the U.S. national team? Do you think we should go international? Do you think someone like a Mourinho, a Bielsa, someone like that is the next logical step? Or do you think we still hold it in-house, if you want to call it, and find an American coach that just happens, you know, to be good at this time? And if you could throw out some names for that too, that would be awesome. What do you think?
Well, I'm one of those that believes in culture. You know, the American culture, okay, it's different from the rest of the world. Americans have no patience in anything. When we talk about development, right? I remember when Klinsmann came in, you know, he was building and getting all the American players to go to Europe so their development will be playing at that top level.
Right.
But we weren't winning, right? And all those work that he put in, and we're seeing the benefits now, but we didn't have the patience, okay? And so for someone like Klinsmann, I thought, you know, was taking us to the right direction if we had only had the patience to build for the next generation. And so there's so many roller coaster coaching changes all over the world, right? We don't necessarily, in my opinion, we don't necessarily need those big names, right? Because those big names comes with ego, right?
Yep.
And the U.S. Soccer Federation is always gone from one philosophy to the other. We go from the Dutch to the, you know, is it the Belgian philosophy?
Spanish.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Spanish. We keep experimenting, right? But in that process, we're leaving players behind.
Right.
Okay. If a name has to come through my mind right now, I would say Jim Cotton,
Yes.
the Philadelphia Union coach. Okay, I
Yes.
mean they've been very successful. They, in my opinion, prior to the MLS Next and all that, they've done great with youth development. Philadelphia Union. A friend of mine, Ian Monroe, from Scotland International. He was former manager at Sunderland, and David Moyes played for him. He was here with me in Tampa, great friend of mine. He's retired now. When Philadelphia Union started, he went over there from Tampa, and he kind of helped set the youth program, the development program, where they focus on kids, getting touches, technical touches, understanding the game. And my experience is, I think, if I was to name, Jim Cotton would be my number one. And Roberto Martinez is very low key, knows the game well, knows how to deliver it. Unfortunately, Belgium did not do as well, but
Right.
he's one of those guys, to me, doesn't have that, high profile ego, but understand the youth process of
He's
giving.
a Portugal now, Eddie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 you know but I would say, let's get someone local, right, homegrown, that understand the problems that we have here, right? Because when you look at soccer, right, all the federation is a piece of it, right?
Right.
Registration fee, every kid that's playing. When we hosted the World Cup here, I don't think we've even got deep to the money that we made from that World Cup. The US, in my opinion, is the second federation in the world, right?
Right.
If
Right.
that is true, why are our kids paying a lot of money to play youth soccer? So guess what? Those kids, those athletic kids, those kids that can play the game and not given the opportunity to play because of the pay to play system, right? The US, it's a big country, right? So we have millions of kids playing, right? It's becoming a money grab, okay?
Right.
And funny enough, you got to check that out. Okay, you got to check it out on Amazon. A friend of mine wrote this book, and really, it kind of summarizes everything that's going on in youth soccer, because it's becoming one of those Pandora boxes where we have acronym leagues. It's this, ECNL, MLS Next, this and that, this and that. None of our youth players can play the entire game because they're not physically and mentally conditioned to do it.
Right.
Why? Because playing time, it's always a struggle, playing time. And we talk about youth development. You're a coach, I'm a coach. I'm guilty of it as well, because, we want to win, but at the same time, we preach development, right? How are you going to develop a kid when, this kid is playing well? You have to take him off to bring a kid that may not develop or belong in that team, that level, right? Now, the kid that's supposed to be developing even faster is now having to take a back seat because, oh, we got to give him playing time. Everybody wins the trophy, gets a trophy, right? But if you were to ask me to restructure the US soccer system, I can simplify it in a way that will be successful, but this is my way. Where do we have control of the parents in America? The school system, high school. High school has the soccer field, they have the indoor gym, they have all the facilities, right? They have
Right.
the school buses. Okay, when I grew up in Nigeria, I didn't play no competitive soccer. It's all school. We were so proud to represent our school, and our recreation was playing with your boys, your friends in the street, right? We didn't have qualified coaches. So imagine after school program, we stretch the high school season to 8 or 10 months, where these kids are training with professional coaches. They do it in football, they do it in baseball, right? The pathway to college in those sports through high school, right? We have great athletes. How much does it cost to play high school soccer? $100 for insurance,
Yep. Yep. And
right?
gear. Maybe.
Everybody should be able to afford to play, right?
Right.
But
Right.
high school is so diluted because everybody has to play. You have to play fifth quarter. But imagine having proper tryouts where these kids can continue to train for 6 or 8 months, extend, their season. They're playing 3, 4 games a week because the high school season is too short, right? Let's spread them out. Let these kids now, so our competitive leagues, right, can become the local. Let those local boys, they go to the same school. Let them play in the rec center. Let them play pickup game. Let that be their out, right? Those kids that cannot make the high school level can still play in the local park, right?
Right.
And the disappointing thing about it is, there's some high level clubs that are doing a great job. They're monetizing it well. They have thousands of kids, but then you still have some local community club that their fees are so low, but they cannot attract quality coaches because to pay those coaches, they cannot, grow their club because everybody is like, I gotta play MLS next. I gotta play ECNL. Parents needs to be educated,
Right.
right? We need to
Right.
educate them because if we have Division 1 to 12, break them into levels, relegation and promotion, right? Rather than, oh, what's the difference between MLS Next, ECNL, ECNLR, NPL, FCL? It's confusing. So whoever can the best to the parents, gets the money. And
Right.
and how are we really developing the kids? Are we communicating to the parents? Are we communicating to the kids? We talk about, yeah, come into the club. If you're doing well, we'll move you up, right? If you're not doing great, we move you down. But the reality is they do not do that because you can't pull a kid that you already picked for this team a tryout and
Right.
say, oh, now you got to go down. We don't relegate and promote, that, but we do preach it, right? And I'm just using it as generic, but I think, if we go back to having the high school professional coaches like you, giving them the opportunity to actually develop a curriculum, because the kids are used to curriculums,
Right.
right? They used to school curriculum, academic curriculum. So if we have professional coaches, professional trainers, which they already have in school, right, and extend their season, then the cream of the crop will get recognized. You have those, kids that cannot afford to play competitive. They're
Right.
not playing. They only play high school. But what do they do after high school? They get into trouble. They have distractions.
You're right. You're right.
Okay, and
Yeah.
and I think we need to just reverse the entire system, right? And just create something that's feasible, that's affordable for those kids. Some clubs are doing a great job giving scholarships here and there, but what happens is the parents that are paying still expect playing time,
I
right?
agree.
Even their kids are not at that level.
Right.
Why are we putting players in a team that they don't belong? Because we want to make a team. Why are we combining age groups to make a team in that age group? It doesn't make sense. It comes with frustration from the parent side, the players, and the coaches, right? We're not giving coaches, the power to make those kind of decisions. Sign them up, sign them up, sign them up. So I think those will be, Jim will be the first person in my, if we just verbatim, just to quickly say something. I think he's done a great job there. I think he's been there since 2014, 15. I don't even remember,
It's
but
almost 10 years now. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
they've been successful. So he knows the culture, right? But be above any coach that comes in, how do we get our top players to be recognized nationally?
And you bring up a great point, Eddie. It's like, I call it the alphabet soup, right? With
Yeah.
ECNL, MLS Next, USYS, Super Wide, this, that, whatever. Okay. And as someone that was in that arena for quite a while, okay, the funny thing is that everyone now is trying to, how it is. It's a big, butting of the heads. Who's better? ECNL, is it better? MLS Next, is it better? This, that, whatever. I've watched all of it. And on the
Yeah.
girls' side, you have the girls ECNL, you have the GA, you have all this other stuff. And I've been to, just because of my recruiting responsibilities,
Yeah.
I've been to so many of the events over the last 4 or 5 years. And the crazy thing is, you know what? In the ECNL, you're going to get your 5 or 6 really good teams, 5 or 6 really good clubs. In the GA, you're going to get your 5 or 6 really good clubs, right? If you want to say from each region, right? Like here in the ECNL, you have, in the Midwest region, you got, Eclipse, you have, maybe Indiana Fire, you have FC Wisconsin, right? St. Louis got Gallagher. You have those types of teams and clubs and programs. Down by you've got, Florida Premier, Florida Elite, Orlando City, whatever it is, Yeah, exactly. And then,
yeah,
right, exactly. And then, in the other leagues, and here by us, you got Inter FC, you've got, a couple of the other teams in the USYS, and then, whatever it is, GA, you've got Libertyville or FC United or whatever. But, it really comes down to, and this is the one thing, that a lot of people, I don't know if they get it or if they don't get it, but it should be clear because it really comes down to the coach from each one of those teams or the director of coaching from those programs. Because when you get people that know what they want, how they want to play, okay, it makes a big difference. And I made this point the other day when I was talking to one of my buddies. US 380 million people, right? 22 kids, 26 kids that went to the World Cup. There should be a plethora of other talent and everything. Looking at it like that, you know what I'm saying? But yet we got to go get Serginho Dest, who was developed where? In Europe. You got to go get, guys like that, who were, born of, whatever you want to call it, marriages with an American citizen and somewhere else and all this other kind of stuff. And I mean, if we want to look at it, that even goes back to the 94 team when you had Tom Dooley, Wegerle, those kind of guys, right? And everything. So, you try to do all that. But then you look at, and again, it's not because it's, it's my people, but you look at Croatia. I mean,
a small nation,
dude, less than 4 million.
They're not even the size of
Chicago,
one of the states here.
No, they're not even the size of Chicago. New York and LA or Chicago are bigger than them in the whole, and they're a city. You know what I'm saying? But you look at, because we have a clear way of playing, we know that we love our midfield, maestros. And then again, we're not even talking just Modric, Brozovic, Kovacic, Rakitic. We're talking back in the day with Boban, Kosanecki, Asanovic, Zvonimir Soldo, Stanic, Jarni, all these guys. And, even in those like sort of lean years that we had, we still had players, Nico Kranjčar, those kind of guys too, that could play. But, again, what is there? Are there 17 different leagues in Croatia? No. You have one centralized league, right? And you have Dinamo Zagreb, you have Hajduk Split, you have Osijek, you have Rijeka, you have that kind of stuff, right? In the States, I think the problem is it's not centralized. Like, let's say back when I was playing club ball, dude, you had U.S. youth soccer, and that was that.
That's it.
If you won the national title, you won it. That was it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And the teams that we played against, man, when we had our cultural, team with the, Hrvat Chicago, you were playing against guys, and then I wound up playing with them later, and everything on Sockers, on Magic. And, man, those dudes were so good, man, down in Florida, you had Clearwater Chargers, you had You
You
know,
have
that,
Blackwatch. You
yes,
have
man.
RSL.
Yes, man. Then in California, you had, San Diego Surf, you had,
Yep.
Cal Magic, you had in Arizona, you had, Premier Monarchs, you had Mesa Magicians, you had Sereno, those are the kind of teams, man, and everything. And, you knew, hey, man, if you want to go play with the best, it might have,
You
it
got
didn't
it.
cost as much then as it is
Yeah.
now. But, we were driving from the south side of Chicago to Palatine at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to a 6:30 game. Why? Because we wanted to get to where we wanted to get to, and with the kids nowadays, and again, we didn't have, I was lucky because I had who I have living here with me
Yeah.
as my
Yeah.
dad, who was
Yeah.
able to tell me, Ante, you must do this and that and everything like that. You know what I mean?
He's
So,
been there, done that.
if anyone has, it's him, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's just one of those things, Eddie. And now with the proliferation of all these leagues and everything like that, I think that and I hate to use the term watered down, but it's true. I mean, if you're a national team scout, where are you going this week? Are you going to go to Florida? Are you going to go to Arizona? Are you going to California? As a college scout, where are you going? You're going here, there, where are you going?
And what league are you gonna go watch? And those leagues, but there shouldn't be blowout in games.
That's what I'm saying.
There
Man.
shouldn't be blowouts.
Yeah. And I watched them and I've coached in them, my little Indiana elite team, my 09 boys that I had for the last 3 years, such a good little team. And, a little bit smaller in size, could pass the ball around, could play. We get up against a team that had 2 6'2" center forwards. What the hell are we supposed to do? You know what I mean? So, you catch up to that later in life. But here's the thing. I took pride in coaching those kids to make sure they knew how to move, the tactics, all this other kind of stuff. Where a lot of these other right. But these other teams are like, let's go direct. Let's play let's play like Sunderland in 1994 where it was
kick the ball up. Send it.
Let's send it to Niall Quinn and he'll knock it down for Kevin Phillips and we're in. You know what I'm saying? Or Teddy Sheringham and Alan Shearer or whoever, Oliver Bierhoff, whoever the hell it was back then, But I think that's the big difference too is you got coaches who want to just win. And don't get me wrong, I love winning. I'm the first one. You know me as well as anybody. I love to win. But I also want the kids to do it right. And when you see them struggle, but they get it later on, that's the big payoff. Now, I know that clubs have to worry about cash. I know clubs have to worry about, bringing in the revenue so that they can pay for their fields and the jerseys and all that other kind of stuff and everything. But I think just like you said, I think the U.S. has never had a clear philosophy. And that's the big thing. And coaches, I'm going to touch on something that I read today, and I know that you're going to find this interesting. The guy from Reims in France, the team that just played PSG today, has no license, no professional license. And the club is getting paid. The club is getting fined $22,000 a game because he does not have his professional license. Yet they're in the top 5 of Ligue 1 for the first time ever, and he's developing players left and right. So you and I, who are highly licensed and take pride in that, but also have the pedigree, right, for all the other stuff, we might be getting left behind because we're not able to pay $25,000 for the USSF Pro or the USSFA and all this other kind of stuff. So there's so many things being touched on here. It's just like, certification doesn't mean qualification in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
But I think, again, there's guys like you, me, who take pride in what we've done in the licensure terms. We've done all the work there, right?
Yeah.
But we've also done the work on our own on the side where we know the game, we watch the game, we study the game, we take everything in. We're up at 6 a.m. on Saturday mornings watching whatever we can to try to get our fix for everything, And I just think that maybe where therein lies the problem for the U.S. where you can't go forward if you're not in the right circle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. 100% agree. And that's always been, that's what leads to this sense of entitlement. Sometimes you're in a position that you don't deserve, but you're in the right circle. And then you're there, you feel like you've earned it, you're entitled to it. And it trickles down to, the kids feeling entitled, the parents feeling entitled because we're paying for it,
Right.
and so the bottom line is, right, US is so huge, compared to the Croatia, right? So
Right.
you can argue and say, well, it's a small country, it's condensed, we can spot and watch them, it's one league, we can pick the best from the best, right?
Right.
And then, the US being such a big country with all these, acronyms, soup, leagues, it's impossible to actually identify the level. I remember when ECNL for the girls was the big thing. The level was there, and then they came out with the DA for the boys. Okay, good. And the following year they came out with the DA for the girls. Guess what? The DA and the ECNL for the girls start competing.
Right.
That diluted ECNL for the girls, which was the highest level of youth soccer at that point because it
Right.
was very competitive, right? And then we decided, oh, no more DA now, right? They still have ECNL. Now we have MLS Next, right?
Right.
So MLS Next, why can't we let the MLS teams develop those MLS Next? Let it be them. We don't need it at the local level, at the youth level, because there's other leagues, right? And what makes it even worse that the burnout rates here, once they get to that freshman, most kids are burn out, especially the boys.
Yes.
They burn out. Why should a team travel from here to South Florida, spend the night in an hotel, pay all that kind of money to get blown away 6-7-0? And you're talking a bunch of 9 years old. Do they really need to travel that far to get competition? Do you
They
think it's a
shouldn't.
good drive back? They shouldn't.
Right.
There's many localized teams. Play friendly matches. Play scrimmage against your neighboring club. Have these clubs all work together rather than compete against each other. Should be able to say, hey, Ante, hey, I have this kid. It's above my level. I know you have a better team in that age group. Can we get him an opportunity? Take a look at him. We don't. The club should not act like they own these players. We should provide the
Yes.
opportunity. And I've done it here. I've called coaches from other clubs and say after tryouts, I have this player that I'd like you to take a look at. Let him play Super Y in the summer if you like him. If you don't, he has a place to play. And the first response is, oh, after tryout, you're leftovers. I'm like, no, these kids are actually the best player I have, but my team is going to be a Division two level because I have to be honest with myself. And when they find out, those kids end up playing at those clubs for multiple teams, which benefits the player. And my job is to convince their parent to say, hey, I know it's an extra drive, but that's where that kid belongs,
Yeah, 100%
right?
right.
It's called having relationship within the clubs locally where, we can have, pathway. There's no pathway. Everyone says they have this pyramid, they have this pathway, but the pathway should not be localized to their club only, right? They should have some collaboration with other clubs to say, hey, your best player, put all those players at the same level, training and playing together, it elevates it. And it goes
I
back to my
agree.
high school thing, right? Send them, let the high school in each county, right, compete and get the best from county, and then maybe from there go back to the good old ODP, you know, take the politics away, reestablish that ODP because there's some great ODP coaches. Maybe now we have ODP, let's then go play regional and create a direct pathway. There's not. The club
Eddie,
don't
you know
have
what?
curriculum.
What? And I wanted to touch on a point you brought up earlier before I forget. I couldn't agree with you more about the high school thing, and here's why. Because, like you said, many high schools now, some, I'm not going to say all, but let's say 85% have stadium fields, have auxiliary turf fields, have auxiliary grass fields, where if you were able to hire a full-time coach on both the men's side and the women's side for 45, 50,000 a year, right?
Yeah.
Maybe add a gym, like class for them so that they can get a couple extra bucks as well, right? You do that, and especially in the inner city, right, where a lot of the, let's say in Chicago, for example, right, you have a lot of the
Yeah.
public league schools, everything. They're building turf fields now adjacent to their schools. They're doing everything like that. Okay. And even like, let's say me being a Mount Carmel graduate, Catholic school, and if you want to call it the worst area in Chicago and Woodlawn, we have now what's called one of the best, turf stadiums in the country for football, and now with soccer too, right? So,
Okay. Yeah.
there it is. There's that ability to offer what maybe a club team can't, and everything like that. The structure is there, the facilities are there, all that's there, right? But in, let's say, over the last 35 years, all you've seen is a decrease and people leaving the high school game because you get coaches in there who are just teachers who don't know what's going on. And like you said, and like I love the proposal that's on the table to go year round in college, right? Where, now all of a sudden you don't have to fit 20 games in 3 months, right? Where you could put 10 games in the fall, 10 games in the spring. You got one game every week where you can work with the training, with practice. You're getting these, kids doing, wonderful things in that time. Plus they stay concentrated because they know if they, don't get their grades, they can't play. And I mean, here, and now people can't say anything about, let's say college soccer not being a direct pathway to Europe because that kid from Syracuse just signed for Leicester.
Yeah.
So,
Leicester City.
Right. So, again, as a former, club coach, you could say I'm biting my nose off in spite of my face.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you look at it, and the high school and the college route, if it was done the right way, and there were, parameters set and coaches hired that, yes, went through proper training, all this other kind of stuff and everything, man, it's the perfect setup, man.
It's a perfect setup because we can actually mandate a curriculum from the national level all across, all the way down to high school, right? And also think about this, right? When we stretch the season out for high school and college, it actually helps the true student athlete to be able to focus on both.
Right.
Periodization, right? Periodization. Okay. They need time to recover. The sports scientists can help the program because they have a longer period of time to get them back, to their optimal performance level. So you think about a kid playing high school for 2-3 months, right? Condensed schedule. Then they got to go to college. It's not really preparing them to go play college ball, right? Now, they could fail their classes within that 2-3 months of 3 games a week. They got to train, one day. And if you, like you said, have a teacher that don't understand the game, all he probably does is run, right? And then they get hurt, right? There's no fast recovery. But if we stretch the season out where the infrastructure is there, the curriculum is there, it can be mandated across. Now the national team staff can look at the top high school and say, these are the players we want, right? It's a simple formula for a huge country, right? Because now, you have qualified coaches coaching them.
And that's the big thing, Eddie, is that even at the club level, when they tell you, oh, yeah, no, this coach has done this coach has done that, as well as I do, okay? You've seen a couple of these coaches at games and everything, and, and don't get me wrong, I'm one of the old school coaches. When the time comes to, maybe raise your voice a little, you do it. Because you have to get the kids in there. You have to get the kids mentally in. Sometimes they need to click on everything. I think there's a difference between that and abuse, okay? I think that when you get the right mix of that, and there's that positive, negative, positive sandwich where, you get the, sports psychology, background, everything like that, it comes off as a coach who actually cares about the kids, knows the game, and has the resources to make something big. It becomes something big. And, I love, and don't get me wrong, I know that you have the mega clubs in the country. Again, St. Louis, Scott Gallagher, a couple of these other teams like, Grant Park down in Indianapolis, let's say, Clearwater Chargers has that whole facility down there now in Lakewood.
Yep.
all these other places, right? You get when you see the results the moment you have those facilities, resources, all that infrastructure is there, right?
Yep.
So if you have a chance to keep those kids together for a full year in the high school, in that
Area.
atmosphere, with
Yeah.
the turf field, with trainers, with the ability, like you said, to have that proper periodization and everything, it would make such a huge difference, right?
Absolutely.
It would make a big difference. That's it.
And then for example, you look at coaching styles. I'm one of those very laid back coaches that during the game, I want my players to recognize that voice when I get up and say something,
Right.
but I don't joystick them. But at practice, I'm louder
Yes.
because I want to make sure we build intensity, boom, boom. When it comes to the game, I look at it and say, hey, this is your test. I'm not going to give you an open book and try and tell you which way to control the ball, this and that. My job is when I get a player, let's say it takes them 16 seconds to make a decision at the beginning of the season. At the end of the year, if his decision making becomes like 14, 12 seconds, I've done my job.
Right.
Because that means speed of play, that means development. And the other thing I do is, obviously we know the game, we've played it, we've had bad, games. And sometimes when my player has had a rough day, and we won or lost, 15 minutes into my drive, I'll call the parent. Hey, is Ante there? Hey, what's up, coach? Can I speak to Ante? Yeah. Hey, Ante, remember that left foot shot that you made? I know it's your weak foot. I really like it. Unlucky about that. It didn't go in. I want to see it at practice next week, right?
Right.
Ante's like, thank you, coach. Thank you, coach. You want to talk to my dad or my mom? No. Click. I hang up. The reason I do that is players know when they've had a bad day, right?
Right.
And some parents on the way home can really do a lot of damage to that kid because they're telling them how bad some of them did or their teammates. So when the parent asks Ante, hey, what did coach want? Coach said he liked my left foot shot that I took. Guess what? Dad is not going to be yelling or telling him negative stuff, right?
Right.
And
Right.
and at the end of it, the player, we should be more player centric,
Yes.
right? Rather
Yeah.
than, oh, I'm Coach Eddie, and most clubs that I coach at, I let the parents find out who I am rather than me. That I say I play college, I play this. No, it doesn't matter. That's the past. Let them get to know you for who you are now, right? We may
Right.
be able to run and play in those days, but that's not who we are now, right? Because now, the age is creeping in, the mind still has it. So I always say that parents or players should see who you are rather than who you used to be, because
Right.
that can mask, the real person you're dealing with. And you nailed it. We need to have a structure, right, where these little kids can. I was talking to a director today, right, and it was something to do with playing time, blah blah blah, of one of the local club. And I said, listen, there's a player parent agreement form, right? One of the main item is no playing time guaranteed, right? It has to be earned, it has to be deserved, and you make the parents sign it, right? But it's an open-ended, parents are now forced to sign it. If they don't, they may not be in the team, right?
Right.
But then the parents will demand playing time, and the coach gets into trouble for it because the coach says, hey, this kid should not be in this level or whatever. Now, how about we say this? U12 and below, 50% playing time, because that's the development age. U13 and above, they got to earn it. How about we put that in those parents' contract? That way, we get to pick players that really belong there, not because of the numbers, not because we want to mismatch your team so this everybody can play. But now, if I know as a coach that I have to try and give 50% playing time to every kid, it's going to raise the level, right? Every parent will understand it. Then, building up to U13, when you get to the big field, sometimes we don't get on the field when we were young. you can play 4 or 5 games, don't even get a minute,
Right.
right? So because we understand it, but there's no clear definition on those little rules, right? And then you go to a coach, or well, parents are complaining their kids are not playing, and it becomes a problem with the coach. But then the coach can say, hey, we had a play agreement. No playing time is guaranteed. So there's a lot of little things that we need to actually fix. But I
And
think no parent is going to go to the school system and complain my kid is not playing, because your kid will not make the team if, the whole school, you have those kids that can play, big tryouts, right?
right.
So it won't be an issue. It's high school.
And Eddie, you know what? You bring up another great point is that, I had a little bit of a Facebook conversation with a few people back a couple weeks back on a post or whatever, when people said that winning isn't part of the development process. My theory is it's 100% part of the development process. Do you not, if you don't win, if you don't see that what you're doing, the hard work that you're putting in and everything isn't paying off, you're not going to be developing here, as well as the physical portion of it where you're on the field with your technical ability, this, that, whatever. And I think that that's again, over the last however many years with the participation trophies, with, worrying about this, that, whatever. Eddie, we come from in Nigeria, man. You know what? You went home after you played in the streets and did all that. You know what you talked about? I whooped this dude's ass. I did this. I
Yeah,
did that.
yeah,
That was part of it. And
yeah,
if that kid wanted to win, guess what he had to do? He had to go
yeah.
back and work. And
Yeah,
whether it was 500 more touches a day or get in the gym or everything, this is why. And when people, I get into conversations as well about soccer cities and everything like that. I, till my dying day, and have from minute one said I am absolutely thankful that I grew up in Chicago. Not only because of the level of passion towards the game in the city, but because of
yeah,
the level of talent.
yeah,
And not only my certain age, the 1974 generation and more, but
yeah,
I'm also talking about, man, the generation that my dad came in here with. Okay,
yeah.
as they would say, the fresh off the boaters, right?
Yes, yes. The
The way
diversity, right? Diversity.
right, the DPs as they used to call them, right?
Yeah,
So they used to bring all them guys here with that talent, man, and with that background and with all of that, everything like that. And these guys, man, those are the dudes I learned from. And you know what? Those guys were, what was I, 12, 13 years going to my first training sessions. And, my dad would be like, hey, you're going to get on the field. If you get kicked, don't cry. Don't
yeah,
go home to mama and be like, yo, this dude whacked me. You know what's going to happen?
yeah,
He's going to come back harder at you next time because you're a
yeah,
whiny little, crybaby, right?
yeah,
So I'd come in, they hit me. Okay, cool. No problem. I'll take it. Next try. Let's go. And then when I started hitting them, and that part of winning those tackles, winning the
yeah.
battles on the field, and then winning the games, and then winning your trophies,
And then
that helped
winning
me.
that too.
Yes, the mental portion of it and everything too. I think that people overlook that portion of the development. And don't get me
Yeah,
wrong, technically, this, that, whatever, I think that's obviously a massive part of it too. But when you see the kids in the favelas in Brazil,
yeah.
or or in the poor portions of Argentina,
The,
or in the poor portions of Nigeria, Croatia, Spain, any of these other, now Morocco coming up and everything.
yeah,
Those
yeah.
those kids have that killer mentality because
Quality from,
from minute one, right?
yeah,
That's the way it goes.
yeah,
They've been taught from minute one that they have to fight for everything.
yeah.
And listen, again, one of my favorite players of all time, Roy Keane. Would you call Roy Keane a technically superb player like your Iniestas, your Xabis, your
Oh,
Modric, your
no,
Pirlo? You
no,
won't.
no.
But,
But he gets the
but
job done.
who
When you're going against Roy, hey, it's on from the
who was?
minute
Yes, that's it, man.
to the
Who
end. You know?
who was the most dominant midfielder in the Premier League during his time? Him. And who was
Yeah,
second? Vieira. And you had
yeah,
other guys that came in that were, I wouldn't say carbon copies, but they had that same mindset that he had, a Steven Gerrard, a Frankie Lampard, guys like that were coming in and they're like, okay, I got to have his desire and his ability to go from 18 to 18 and everything like that.
Box to
But-
box.
But I want my technical ability too, and
Yeah.
that's the difference. That's what here the U.S. Who was their number 10 in the World Cup, Eddie? Who? Musa, Adams,
Right.
Pulisic.
Not even
McKinney?
close to any of the level.
No. And they were playing a 4-3-3 where you need a dominant 10, right?
Yeah.
And what game did they do best? They did best against England when
England,
they
the
went to a
0-0.
4-4-2. Right. When
Yeah.
they went to a 4-4-2 and they dropped Pulisic into that spot where he can have his way, right? And what happened? They had Bellingham, England had Bellingham, Foden, right? When did England finally grab a hold of the game? When they brought Henderson in.
Anderson, yeah.
Who did his job in that
Job,
holding
yeah.
role, and they knew that they had to
Simplified
stop.
it.
Right. And they let the U.S. go forward and everything. The U.S. did well. They played with that line of 4, the line of 3, and then they let Pulisic have that kind of free roaming role. But again, where's our number 10? Where's that
But you
U.S.
know
number
why
10?
we're not developing players like that? You know why? Because we're not allowing our players to problem solve on the field.
Right. It's
We're
exactly
not
right.
allowing them the freedom to problem solve. We're too busy trying to force them
Yes.
to do it this way. When I train little kids, I don't ask them to do it. I always tell them to try, because there's no failure in trying. I'm always saying, hey, try this, because I may be able to do it and the kid cannot, right? I don't want him to quit and just be frustrated. So I'm always saying try. The key word is have the player try, because you can never critique the effort to try, right? So tactically, most of our players are very lazy. Physically, we're there. We love the agility. We love the physical running, the sprints and 40-yard and this and that. But we're not developing them tactically enough, because we're not allowing them to solve problems on the field. Football, every time that ball moves, things change.
Right.
Every single time it moves. So we need to make adjustment. We need to recognize it. We need to be aware of where the ball is, our teammate, the defender in the space, those
Right.
4 components. But we don't allow those kids. The minute they give up the ball, we're frustrated. We're yelling at them. We're not giving them time to recover and learn to fail before they become successful. Right? So
Agreed.
number 10, in order to do that, we need to create a lot of number 10, even defenders, to be a number 10, to be able to manipulate the ball, to be able to understand, those 4 critical components of understanding the space, the player, the teammate, and now they will be able to play anywhere on the field.
You're 100% right. 100% right, man. And they're drills that, like I've gone to the license courses and everything, and they tell you rondos don't work. They tell you rondos don't serve a game-like purpose. And I see the smile on your face, because and I know that that's the complete opposite of what they're trying to teach. And I remember at my B license, I remember Paul Shaw, who is from the Virginia Youth Soccer Association. He was my mentor for the week. One of my favorite people on this earth. He was so cool about everything. You went from the small-sided, you went from the warm-up to the small-sided to the to the full-sided game and break down everything. And I remember for my small-sided game, I did the 4v2 to the 8v4 breakout, and with the small goals and everything like that, which is one of my favorite drills, because it serves its purpose, right? You lose that ball, all of a sudden, boom, the 2 guys in the middle have to get that ball outside, and those 4 have to defend, right? So now, just like you said, once the ball is not in your possession, once the ball moves, the game changes, right? So, what are you doing to develop that with the kids in your program or everything like that? I even did it with my Governor State girls this year. And, at the beginning of the year, we were, still getting used to each other, this time, whatever. But at middle of the season, everything like that, all of a sudden you saw the connectivity. You saw the getting the ball into the proper channels when we're making those runs. You saw the third man run. You saw that inverted run instead of the out. It was you saw their heads clicking, right? And why?
It becomes automatic.
Yes, it becomes automatic because you've been put in that situation, and all of a sudden, okay, there's 3 people around you. Big deal. I know what I'm going to do already. And I know that my teammate's making that run in behind, So now, the flick is on, or, my little, cheeky back heel is on, or something like that. It just becomes part of that, maturation and growth.
Heads on the swivel, always heads
Yes.
on the swivel. A player
Yes.
should be able to be scanning every single time, with or without the ball, right? And
100%.
and we lose track of that. The a lot of times coaches always think losing the ball is a problem. No, because he helps that transition. How quick can we get it back? Then you
Right.
can train and make it realistic and say, hey, how quick can we get this back? And now once we get it back, we shouldn't be in a hurry to get rid of it.
Right.
We worked hard to get it back. So rondos, for example, you probably getting more touches in a rondo than some entire training session. Where
Right.
those kids, yeah. So those little tight spaces to be able to know, and it's so much fun. And people think they're goofing around. No, there should be a difference between goofing around and having fun, right? And if a rondo is being taught, the kids go out. What do kids like to do first? They just like to go shoot, shoot, shoot. But
Yeah.
no, if they shooting, they getting one touch every few minutes. But a rondo, it's just you go transition, you're winning the ball, you're covering space, right? You're trying to, get in between the two players. I mean, there's a lot of realistic situation that you're creating in a rondo environment, and we lose track of that because of what we're trying to somewhat please the parents. Because you ask a kid, what do you guys do? And nothing, because we don't implement the right, training plan, session plan. Let the kid understand this is the progression. This is what we're working on today. We stay on topic. So when the kids leave the field, he should be able to explain to his mom and dad, we did this, 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 this. But this is the topic of our session today, right? Now, do I blame coaches? Because sometimes you don't have the numbers. You might want to work with your defenders, and suddenly two of your defenders don't show up, or they're late, and so you're constantly adjusting it, right?
Right.
And it starts from being player centric. I'm always saying that, because if you focus on the players, the results will come. Because now if we're able to create the environment that when you step on the field, the players are happy to see you,
Right.
right? They're not afraid. If they're happy to see you as a coach, they see a smile on your face, they see, they relax. Because of what? I believe that kids these days have a lot of distractions. We tell them, do your homework, go to school, get this, get that, get that. When they come to that soccer training fields, this is their outlet. They're still kids. This is where we want them, to be creative. This is where we want them, to have fun. This is where we need to educate them the difference between having fun and goofing around,
Right.
right? This is where we want to have the intention in a fun and competitive way, right? That at the end of it, when they finish, they're sweating, they work so much, so hard, right? They want more, because kids want to compete. But just creating that environment that when the kid sees you coming, hey, coach, that alone starts off a good practice, right? When the kids are afraid of the coach, they're not sure what the coach is doing. When the coach is not there, the kid should be able to at least start their own warm up,
Right.
be able to represent the coach. It's part of education. We as coaches are educators as well.
And I think that's a lot of the things that's forgotten, right? Is that a coach has to be a mentor, a coach has to be a role model, a coach has to be a lot of things. And I think that what they also have to be is genuine and real.
Yes.
And again, do you know who my coaching idol is? Sir Alex. And that dude had every player and every staff member, he knew him. He knew how to motivate Ryan Giggs. He knew how to motivate Lee Sharp. He knew how to not say anything to Eric Cantona and still get the best out of him.
Cantona.
Yeah, and then, but the craziest part about him is as the generations changed and as the players changed, he didn't. He still did everything the same and kept it as new as possible, right?
Simple, yeah.
When look at Ronaldo. Ronaldo was a completely different, player from Brian McClare or Mark Hughes or something like that.
Yeah.
Rooney. He had all these guys, and he knew how to get to the core
To
of each
get
one
the
of those
best of them.
players, right? And now look here, for example, now, right, Jurgen Klopp. Okay, as much as Liverpool might be struggling this year, and that's fine. What did he do when he first got to Liverpool? He went and made sure that every one of those players knew his door was always open, his phone
Open.
was always on, and those
Yeah.
guys could come to him at any time
Anytime.
about anything. Okay?
Yeah.
Pep Guardiola, same thing. Jose Mourinho. What as much as Jose Mourinho is people will tell you this, that, whatever. Look at how many players that played for him would die for him. Die for him.
Yeah.
Drogba, Frank Lampard,
Lampard.
Ricardo Carvalho, Deco, Schneider, the guys at Inter.
Oh.
Even think about all those guys, man. And it's because as much as people think of him as being a jerk or whatever, dude, Jose still knows his stuff. He's a player's coach.
A player's coach, yeah.
He's a
He will
player's
fight
coach,
and defend
okay?
his coaches and take the heat.
Exactly. But there's that level of psychology to it all, okay? And again, it's not just in football, but when you got coaches like Gino Auriemma in basketball, and Pat Summitt and Mike Krzyzewski and all these guys that were around, and even in NBA, Phil Jackson, Greg Popovich, guys like that. These dudes are all almost one and the same, where those players that played for him or played for them, right?
Yeah.
Are like, damn, dude, I want to go play for this guy. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I want to play for this guy. And that's the difference. And that I know that I pride myself on that, and I know that you pride yourself on that. I could tell you just in the last 5 years, man, how many times I've been there for my players at GSU or my players at Indiana Elite, or now when I was down in Indianapolis for FC Pride and Hoosier. I mean, those FC Pride boys, that 99, 2000, 2001 generation that I had, and my 98 too. Those guys, I'm still talking with them. I'm still doing everything, and because those are my guys, and they'll always be my guys. And here, Eddie, look at us, right?
Yeah.
30 years, man, right?
Yeah.
And if we saw each other, it'd be like we can, just go back to what it was.
Like yesterday. It was like yesterday.
And why? It's a genuine love. It's a genuine respect and caring for each other and everything like that. And players aren't stupid. They can see through the bullshit, right?
Yeah.
So that's just the way it goes, man. And that's why when you see this and you talk about it, again, man, me and you especially, we go back and all that other kind of stuff. And, there's that culture, there's that, that atmosphere that you put at the practice sessions, everything like that. And that's what, when you're a true coach and you have the backing that you need as well, whether it be from your federation, your director of coaching, your board, everything like that. I could go into stories. I know both of us could go into stories about where we weren't, supported or anything like that. But at the end of the day, those dudes have to look themselves in the mirror or do whatever, where we still have the connection with the players that we coached, with the people that we coached with, and everything like that, because they knew we had their back, and they knew that we, and we knew that they had ours as well, So that makes the big difference to me. And I think that that's just what it all comes down to, is as far as like we were all talking about the U.S. and development and all that stuff. And, we could talk to her blue in the face. But, I mean, it's just it goes back down to those core values, right? And, it's find a coach that knows these kids, that isn't what's the word I'm looking here for, compromised in some way, and find someone that's not from New Jersey, because we've only had one coach that hasn't been from New Jersey since like 1990, man. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, I think that that time has come where we need to find someone that, to bring it all, around circle and maybe even wrap this stuff up and everything. It's just, I think it's time that we find someone that has that true love for not their advancement, but for the actual national team's advancement, to make the U.S. that much better, and maybe put them into a position of an England, of a Croatia, of a Nigeria, where we got, players of, the likes of JJ Okocha and Daniel McCarthy, Sunday Olasey, then like we talked about the English players that have come through,
Yeah.
and then the Croatian players and everything. I just think that also goes down to, and it starts at the youth levels. I think it's finding that one common ground, which
Yeah.
in the U.S. I don't think that'll ever happen, but it's got to have some sort of synchronicity, right? You got to find that level ground somewhere and maybe get everyone on the same page.
I mean, the U.S. is so diverse, right?
Right.
But the culture of soccer, right, is language. So
Right.
even with the diversity in the country, we can create a soccer culture where it's a beautiful game, right?
Yes. Right.
Regardless of the diversity, we can still come together and put that culture of the passion, the love for the game, and having the kids be able to express themselves. And if any other country can do it, the U.S. I believe can do that. And that's why I said, someone like Jim Cotton, in my opinion, be number one on my list, right?
Yeah.
Because he understands, he's been there. And I don't even know his record, but I know he's done well with the program. Now, don't get me wrong, there are other coaches out there that qualified. Parents, you get it. It's called Money Grabs, and he sent it to me. I'm reading it, and I haven't been able to put it down yet. And I got it on last Friday. So, well, we cannot solve. We can be Monday morning quarterback based on our experience, right? And it doesn't make us right, but at least he opens ideas of our opinion because of the love we have for the game and for the country.
100%.
And so, if we're constantly having dialogues like this, coaches are talking, and we're having, where we can have a global presence and understanding, and we should be able to bring it all together because there's no one size fit all, right? But we have to come up with a global curriculum that goes from, I'll give you a quick example. So I used to take players and teams to Real Madrid, travel my teams back a few years ago. And every time we went to Spain, we went to the City of Football, for example, which is where the National Training Center is. So every month, right, each region will send their youth teams to the National Training Center. Why? Because the national staff want to see that this Real Madrid Atletico, they're teaching the same curriculum, right, in their youth program. They don't care about what each club is doing at the senior level, but at the youth level, they evaluating that they're actually teaching the Spanish curriculum. And if your club is not really following that curriculum, you get sanctioned. So from one region, they'll bring all the youth kids, the national staff, and watching them train and playing games, and they're making sure that they're following the Spanish curriculum. That's why you have the Fabregas and those guys, they grew up playing together all the way through. Why can't we do something like that? Why can't we have, break it into north, south, east, and west of the country? ODP can facilitate that, where we bring all the regions to the National Training Center, and the parents don't have to pay for that, right? The federation should fund it, because there's a lot of money there, right? They should open that pocket and create a system where these players can be seen at the national level. Not politics, not because I know somebody, not because you're my friend, so my son or daughter should get, to go. We should let the true players get there, let the National Federation fund it. In fact, let the states fund the expense, right? Because the states federation are making money from every registered player, right? And talk about governing bodies. Most states have 2 or 3 different league federation.
Right.
that's another story. Let's not get into that. But
No, we'll be here for another 3 hours. Then,
I
yeah.
know. So, well, I know this is your podcast. I appreciate you, getting me on. I really love it. I love talking to you. We can talk about anything, right?
If we
And I
wanted to get
learned
into
from you.
music and everything else right
I
now, my
know.
boy, it'd be a different story,
I
brother.
learned from you. I don't know if this podcast, if people are supposed to ask questions, I don't know. But it would be nice to get other people's, opinion. Maybe if they have any questions, we can answer it. But this is what we should be doing, talking about, live, talking about the game, and encouraging coaches, players, and learning from each other.
Yo, my man, listen, I'm gonna bring on more people next time. I know that a number of my friends have already reached out to me to be, guests on the show here in the future. I have a lot of, and that we are well connected in the soccer community.
Absolutely.
So I want to bring on as many people as possible. I've even tried to set up some reunions on here, like with all the NHC boys, with all my Arizona Thunder teammates, everything like that, who are well invested in the soccer community as well. When we have the NHC thing, that's going to be awesome. Again, we're trying to organize that as I speak. But listen, my man, it's been awesome. I can't wait to see you again very soon. Okay.
You're a
Uh,
great host, and I think your podcast is, I mean, you have the right content, you have the right material, you have the right motive, and I think, you know, I want to see this continuously grow, and you have audience, and you have a lot of connections. You can bring people with interesting subjects and stories, but I'm only a phone call or a WhatsApp text away.
exactly, man. Exactly. But
So.
listen, I'm my goal, and I'll be quite honest with you, Eddie. My goal is to be some sort of if I want to call it a color analyst or a commentator or at least a contributor to some television station in 2026. Because I think that, like I said,
You
I don't
got the
want to be.
pedigree. You can
I,
do it. Yeah,
yeah, my mom has
I
told me I just have to eliminate saying everything and all the time and all this other kind of stuff. So I just got to listen to Deb, make sure she knows what's going on. But listen, it's something that I've dreamed about, and now that technology's allowed us to everyone be a superstar, in the World Wide Web, and then obviously having people like you who I consider a brother, and have the ability to share our thoughts and in this arena and in this kind of medium. I think it's just awesome, my brother. So what we're gonna do is the next time I get down to Florida, that's when we'll get back together. Maybe we'll call Ellie and Jamie and a couple of the other boys together for the next one,
that
and then
that would be awesome.
yeah, man, and then we'll make sure that we get a whole bunch of topics on board and let it rip and see where we go from there, man. All right.
Hey, I'm going to be following you. I'm going to be, supportive of it. I'm going to be critical of you. Everything that needs to be done, I am going to, make sure that you accomplish what you're planning to do because, this is a great platform for people to express themselves and just, share story and opinion. So thank you very much for having me. Send my love to Kimi and the family and everybody.
We'll do,
And
my
you
man.
got to come to Florida.
You know that's happening, brothers. So listen, you give a hug to my girl Jordan. You give a big hug to Ethan. Although I think if Ethan hugged one of us, he might kill us the way he looks now. Dude's buff. That's all I got to say. Okay.
That's it.
Big love to Linda. Okay, and the
Yeah,
kiddos. I know you're proud as hell of those grandkids of yours too. And listen, man, I
absolutely.
love you, my brother. Okay.
Love you too. Thanks for having me.
Good night, Eddie.
Yes.
Later, yo.
One love.
One love, baby.
Peace.
Peace.
All right.
All right, and to end the night, first of all, I really got to thank Eddie for coming out. It's awesome, like I said, when you have friends of Eddie's knowledge and ability to also speak on the on the matters of football and soccer in the in the U.S. and everything. So again, I want to send a shout out to everyone that's watched tonight. Hopefully, the content was interesting for you. Shout out to, again, all my players and people that I've coached in the past and everything. And we'll be back for actually the chances of us not coming back are 0.0. And that goes out to my buddy Adam Bro. Okay. Much love to you too, Adam. And we'll have a little podcast together for that too, man. Okay. We'll hit him with the Hein and all that good stuff. All right. Everyone, a good night. Thank you for listening to episode number 2. We'll be back with episode number 3, where we're hoping that we get all the Choke Boys on here so that we can talk about, all the good things that my dad has done and all the great things that AJ is doing, following in his footsteps. Much love to everyone. He's not sweet.